Hey, hi Amrita, how are you doing?
I'm great, Rajiv. Thank you. We finally are having this conversation, and I'm just glad about that.
Absolutely. I'm also very, very glad because it's been almost close to a month that we couldn't just get on. We just kept pushing the dates for multiple reasons. But I'm glad that today you could pull out 45 minutes and come on. Before we get started and talk on this very, very powerful book, two leaders in season one spoke on this book, and I'm very happy to talk on this with you again. Let me have the honor of introducing you to the audience. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world you would be sitting while you would be listening to the guest of the day. All of you are part of Leaders and Libraries Season 1, which had 33 global leaders coming and talking on 22 powerful books. Season 2 has 40 global leaders coming and talking on 40 exclusive books. And all these leaders are from the space of CXOs, global coaches, CHROs, L&OD heads, and multiple other segments of business, which is very, very exciting for me. And today we have yet another guest, Miss Amrita Chaudhary, Corporate HR Head, Sapphire Foods India. This is the organization that has been treating you with pizzas and burgers in India. So all those lovely red and yellow and white color shops that you have gone in and belted, they're all created by the lady that you're going to listen to in the next 45 minutes. She comes with close to 15 years of rock solid experience across food retail and pharma industry, has worked on multiple things that you can talk about when you think of human capital development and organization development, whether it is LNOD, whether it is employee engagement, talent management, change management, talk about anything. I think pretty much she has done it. So that's hands-on experience. And she's also one of India's HR 40 under 40 awardees, which clearly says that she's a fast track HR and L&OD professional. Beyond all this, what is so exciting for me to have her is she's also a book lover, and we're going to talk on a very, very powerful book for the day. So thank you so much, Amrita, for accepting the invitation and finally coming on board.
Thank you, Rajiv. That was a wonderful introduction. So thank you for that introduction, firstly.
Oh, welcome. When the profile is so wonderful, so the introduction will have to be as good as it is. So before we get started and talk on this book, let me have the first question. You tell me, how early did books happen in your life? Were you a school-going girl or a college-going girl or an executive with rearing aspiration to get into the corporate and prove it there? When did it happen? Take us through that.
No, I think, I mean, I as far long as I can remember, honestly, because mm, as a child, I was enthralled by books, and we didn't have access to, mobiles and any of the internet when I was growing up. And I remember we used to get these one. We could borrow one book per week from my school library, and
Mhm.
I would finish with the thought that you will finish, the child is going to read one book in a week. I would finish it in a couple of days and then go around exchanging it with some other friend who has finished it, and so on and so forth. I've practically tried every trick in the bag, like hiding my books under the school books, in class, in at home, reading in the library, just to read. And I have been fascinated by the world of books. Um, Ever since I remember, I've never lived without books. In fact, now I think I get less time to read as compared to earlier. And I have a literature background, right? So I
Ah,
have lived with books essentially.
I'm sure, I'm sure, I'm sure. So, which were the early books that fascinated you if you can go back as a girl?
All types. It will be very difficult for me to pick out any one book, mystery, fantasy, but mostly fiction. While growing up, fiction,
Mhm.
and then it graduated to poetry, drama when I got into college,
Mhm.
and but again, mostly around fiction. Quite a bit of mythology and philosophy. Some doses of psychology. It started getting added in college and masters,
Lovely.
and then eventually I think some bit of business books and leadership books got added, but a good dose of I think psychology, mythology still persists, and poetry. I don't think I can live without poetry. So
Then you should pick up this book called Leader. 50 Stories from the Mythology by Devdutt Patnaik.
I am a big fan of Devdutt
Yeah.
Patnaik, definitely. Yeah,
This
yeah.
particular
I
book
read.
called Leader,
Sure.
50 Stories, you should definitely pick it. It's a beautiful book. I think I have it here. Let me show that to you. This is the one I'm talking about. It's
Oh, wonderful.
beautiful. It gives you lovely insights on 50 mythological stories and how he has beautifully stitched it with leadership.
Yes.
You will love it. Your interest being in
And he
that.
has such an effortless style of writing. I mean, I just
Absolutely.
love reading Devdutt Patnaik.
Absolutely, absolutely. Superb. You know what? You're a Bengali and you come from that part of the land, and I have lived my majority of my upbringing with the Bengali. So I've got a huge respect for that community in terms of their contribution to history, to literature, to freedom struggle, and multiple spaces. I think 9 out of 10 Bengalis love reading. 9 out of 10 Bengalis wear spectacles. 9 out of 10 Bengalis sing like Kishore Kumar. 10 on 10 Bengalis love fish. So it's like crazy community. I just
Yeah.
love them because
Yeah, these are probably the good stereotypes. The good ones I like, even though my spectacles came on when I was in my final year of MBA. I just realized from the back of the class that I couldn't really read the board. But but yes, I mean reading is
absolutely.
inseparable. Yeah.
Absolutely. But honestly, their contribution to the space of literature is fantastic. I mean, no doubts about it. It's very sad that the communist, as a political system, has spoiled the state and
Yes.
the community. Else, I think the contribution is marvelous. You can go back to history. You can have pages and pages of examples
Yes.
from that community. I have a huge respect because I love history personally, and I've grown with the Chattopadhyayas, Bandyopadhyayas, Mukherjees, Mondals of the world. So I love that a lot. Super. So let's get started. As you started reading those books, and I'm assuming you would have had your Enid Blytons of the world also during your
Yes.
girl
Yes.
days,
Yes.
right? The Nancy Drews and Hardy Boys and all. I don't know if you've read that.
Yes. Yes. Of course.
Yes, you would have gone on to read some management books and leadership books later when you entered the corporate space. So tell us, Amrita, how did books play a role in your expansion as an individual?
Rajiv, I have a slightly different view on
Sure,
this
sure,
question, of course.
sure.
So I think so. Books is important for me, and I think it is not just management or leadership books that really mold you as a leader. Of course, they do, but I think. What you bring to the table as a leader is who you are inside. There is a
Mm,
whole self, and you cannot really segment that part out and say, okay, at home I'm like this, and
absolutely.
at office with my team I'm some other way. So I think you bring as a leader, you bring all of that to the table, and whatever you read is what you ingest and what you feed your soul. So,
Mm,
my I don't think that evolving, yeah, of course, I mean, from Hardy Boys to something else, but I think, say, an Ayn Rand or something, say, Eric Berne or Freud or say, or when you read any of the leadership books that come in, I read a lot on health and wellness as well. So not health
ah,
per se, but around emotional wellness and
right.
that front as well. And I think all of those aspects kind of tie in together to make
Mm,
the person I am, right? So, um, yeah, in fact, I'm not on a very heavy diet of leadership books. I mean, I need to
good.
have, I have these parallel reading tracks going
Oh,
on. So I
yes, you need to.
so I
Absolutely.
have multiple types of books open, and I then typically shift from one to the other
Yeah,
uh, because that's how I need to grow. I think
absolutely.
that that journey is important, and I have no restriction on what I read. I love fantasy as well. Even
True,
now, I think
true,
it's
true,
just
true, true. What do these books primarily do to you, Amrita? I mean, how have you seen them help you, whether it is a fiction or a non-fiction or a mythology?
Hmm. So I think the deeper the connect, the more profound the impact it has on you as a person, right?
Mm,
And it evolves. I think it evolves, shifts mental processes in you. I read this book, and it is not just the book I'm going to talk about today, but also there's this book called "You Can Heal Your Life," right?
yeah,
So, and it had such a it's a very simple book, apparently on affirmations, but it is so different once you start reading it. There's a whole internal journey that you go through when you're going through the book, reading the book, and it just uh, it just changes the way you think. If you can pick up even couple of things from the book and use it in your life, or even say, when I say mythology and you mentioned Devdutt Patnaik, and I read Sita, and we all know the Ramayana. We have been, watching
Grown with that.
Ramayana. Ramayana used to come on television when we were
Yes,
kids, right? So we all know. I have read Ramayana in various forms, and this is such a different interpretation from a very feminist angle. Um, and it doesn't preach, and yet it teaches so much,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
As being a woman leader, you can just relate to that
Relate,
sense of independence of Sita
absolutely.
as a character. So I think every book has its own lesson to give you, even it doesn't, if it even it is not packaged in that form.
True, true, true. I think what you said makes sense because you said two things, which one more guest kind of resonated. He said books makes you a far more aware person, makes the thinking process stronger for you. He also mentioned that multiple kind of books and genres, right? So there's a lovely example one of the leaders gave. It's like the vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, D, E that you need for a healthy life. He said multiple genres of books play the roles of an A, B, C, D, E vitamins and kind of
Absolutely,
collectively help you to become a better person of yourself.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
very nice, very nice. So, what made you pick this particular book among all the book when we discussed and spoke on this event? Start with Why of Simon Sinek. Why this?
Yes. It was a difficult choice actually what to really zero on to speak, but I think why I chose this book is it resonates with me at a personal level. Some
Okay,
books resonate with you,
it
uh,
does.
right? And hence the impact. And it might be one simple thing that I have picked up from the whole book, or two
Mm,
things, but
mm,
it really resonates because it goes down. It has that. What I was just mentioning before this, that there is a shift in the fundamental way in which you think. So, the
mm.
premise on which the book is built, that people don't buy the what, they buy the why.
Right,
So,
true.
and all your questions around life decisions, career choices, roles that you take up, the way you lead your teams, the kind of companies you work for, people
Mm,
you choose in your life,
right.
all of them ultimately boil down to that fundamental question of why.
Why?
So, and the why, when you say start with a why, I mean, I think that, and it's so simple. I mean, it's not. I mean, once you come to think
We
of
were
it,
doing it all years, nothing
yeah,
new.
you were doing it, and you would wonder, why did I think of it like this earlier? Uh, but I think that's why it resonated with me at multiple levels. I mean, this was the first thing that you
True.
essentially have to come down to that why to
I
really
know,
answer
I
your
know.
questions.
When I read the book, I was telling very jokingly to a very close friend of mine, saying, "ये तो हम बहुत साल से कर रहे हैं, नया क्या बोल दिया साइमन सिनेक ने? अगर मैंने बोला होता तो आज मैं साइमन सिनेक बन जाता."
Yeah, yeah. I
Very
know. But Simon Sinek, that brings me, I mean, it is one of those cases. So I'm a book lover. So I generally read a book and then watch the movie if a movie has been made on a book. Right now, this is a story in reverse, because I watched Simon Sinek, speaking about his book, and I was so enthralled. I was so floored by his passion. There is so much conviction when he speaks. I
Absolutely.
think and then I thought I have to read this. What is he talking about? I really have to read it. So
I
it was
know, I
kind of
know.
a reverse.
Very true. Very simple concept, but very, very powerful, right? Let's talk about a couple of things that I thought was very interesting, and I believe that young leaders would be benefited by your talk. So I'm going to go with the first one. And he makes a very powerful statement saying, there are leaders and there are those who lead. Very simple statement if you read it with basic fundamental English language knowledge. But I think the sentence has profound meaning to it. How do you interpret this as a leader?
Right. So so when you look at a leader, he generally would emanate from a position of authority. So I think that is the distinction that, and yet I think in our kind of situation, you need to lead not from a position of authority. Most of the times we do not have that position of authority. We need to
Very
influence
true.
people cross-functionally, peers, seniors,
Mm.
uh, people who have nothing to do with your function, and yet you have to influence them to get the work done, influence
Very
them
true.
to buy on to what you are trying to do, right?
Mm.
And
Mm.
the power that, and I'm using the power word power for the lack of a better word right now, but um, that power that you have, or that influencing capability that you have
Mm.
without the chair being associated with it, I think
Yes.
the distinction between the two. And uh, when leadership is a journey. So while you have invited me so graciously to this forum, I when I have interacted with leaders, and some leaders I've met who have ticked all the boxes. They are very suave, very persuasive. They are extremely good in their subject knowledge. They're
Mm.
experts in their field, and yet working with them have made me feel there's something amiss.
Yeah.
There's something not right, and I have later, tied the joined the dotted lines to kind of understand that what lacks is the authenticity. There is something,
Mm.
and
Beautifully said.
I have been able to understand that much later, because on the face of it, everything is fine. I mean, there is
Yeah.
no reason you wouldn't want to work in that team, because
True.
yeah, everything is fine. But uh, there there isn't that internal sense of motivation that comes,
Mm.
and that comes in from the authenticity of a leader.
Very
And I
true.
think Sinek also kind of speaks about it in a very different manner. The coherence between the three circles in the
Correct.
golden circle. So I think
Correct.
that authenticity, which I have been able to put a finger on much later, not when I was experiencing it. So
Right. Right. Right.
I think that authenticity piece is
Differentiates
the
the
quality.
leaders and
Yes,
who
it's
lead,
the
right?
differentiating factor. For me,
Absolutely.
that is it.
I think you makes a lot of sense, Amrita, because all that experience that some leaders carry on their shoulders, yet they are not able to come across the authentic way that you spoke about. So you're not able to relate to them, connect with them, be with
Correct.
them for a longer time. You're very
Right.
transactional,
Right.
for namesake.
Right.
It
So they
gets
don't create that sense of, that sense of trust and that
uh,
sense of belongingness. And it's not about how much you get paid and how much actual appreciation you get. And I'm not saying these are not important things, but they are still in the periphery. There is
very
something very intrinsic. And I'm one who believes that somebody else cannot motivate you. You have to motivate yourself. And that's very intrinsic,
very
right? So
interesting.
you might get influenced by various things for your motivation, but it's very intrinsic. And that is, I think, comes from the conviction of the leader, what he is doing, why he is doing, and how well he is able to relate that to his team. I think
Very
that
true.
is
Very true. That's so right, yeah, because today in this world of technology, I think this authenticity seems to be going off the window. If people can bring it back to the room, I
right.
think you'll have a far better connected place to work, far better, safer place to work, isn't it?
Right.
Very
Right.
true, very, very true. So let me ask you this very interesting one. Uh, the golden circle concept itself,
Yes.
right? Tell us how
Phenomenal.
did this, yeah, tell us how did this help you in your life, Amrit? Any example or a situation that, wow, this is magical.
So I would say that it is a little different. Uh, Not necessarily, I believe in the golden circle. But what I'm going to tell you is in the reverse again. So,
Mm-hmm.
when I started off, like I said, I have a literature background. So, I have
Yeah.
done a graduation in English literature, I've done a master's in English literature, and then I've done an MBA, and then I have started working. So, it's been a rather meandering career path, if you can say so. And for
Right.
a long while, I held myself, I felt really guilty of having, wasted time, right? So I could have been somewhere else by now, kind of a feeling, right? So, And later on, I realized that it is because I'm trying to answer questions on the what and the how without really understanding the why of my career journey.
How
And
nice.
it is a journey, and I think my why is, and took a long time to figure out that why. So I think my why is in exploring my talents and in reaching my potential, exploring my potential, and in
Right.
the process helping others reach their potential. And that is somewhere, it is more about the destination and the journey.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have been the person I am today if I had not taken that scenic route to,
Very
to
true.
where I am. I think that golden circle really helped me put that mind to ease and say that, okay, this is a journey. Having said that, I have been fortunate enough to meet leaders at different points in life who have helped, and you don't make it alone, you cannot do it alone,
You
you
cannot.
have leaders who guide you. There's a lot of contribution everybody else has on your career, right? And they have put me in the right track multiple times, given me that space to explore, right? So I have, and it has happened in two of my previous companies. I was hired for a particular role, and then I have done that, and then I have done two other roles, and I have taken cross-functional assignments, and that is the reason I have grown. I think that is
True.
the
True. True.
pure and simple reason why I've grown, because I have this whole fear almost of being stagnant, right? And that exploration is so critical for my peace of mind, because I realize that is the why. If I don't satisfy that, nothing else really falls in place, right? So I get very anxious when I feel that, oh, I have not done something exciting in some time, both in my
Right.
personal and my professional space. So I indulge in a, so that is why, and if that is the why, then how do the next steps follow? So the how is in taking up a lot of projects. I'm generally stretched while I was complaining to you, but that is part of my doing because I am stretched. At the moment I have work that I can manage, I feel I'm not doing enough, and there is something else I should do as well. So that is generally the scene with me. But yeah, I mean, I think taking up a lot of assignments, taking up, getting as many experiences that I can, and that is very important to me. And forget the designation, forget what level, what kind, in what function. In my first job, I have done business functions because I finished. It was a small team, and I so much so that the CEO told me, "Why don't you just shift to business?" So, they qualitative research focus group discussion with consumers to understand consumer habits, and I was so interested in that. I would go to the field visits and sit with them. I would go on product photo shoots and understand how the lighting
That's
works, and
understanding business.
how. So yes, I am always, I get excited by that. I mean, it's just not what you are doing, right, or what you are supposed to do so far. So, and it has happened in every role, that every company that I have worked for, small and large. So that is the how. It's this whole hunger and commitment. I think, and that obviously means that you have to stretch. You have to make your
True.
team stretch. So it is essential. You have to have a manager who is supportive,
Right.
who gives you opportunities to explore as well. And I have been fortunate to get that. And the what, so what exactly do I do? That will fall.
And
I
which
think
would
that is
really
the
happen
easy
any
part.
which
That falls
ways.
in place. Yeah, that will happen any which way. So
Very true. My God, this is so interesting. I would love to have somebody like in my team. Yeah, if given a choice, I would love to just pull you on screen and say, "I join Karo leadership elements." I mean, this passion is so lovely. Sandeep is lucky to have somebody like you because you know what? If and without any exaggeration, I can tell you, if somebody is so crystal clear in the why, and that is what going to drive you constantly, of how can I help others by helping myself, which is what you said. I think stretch, extra hours of work, etc., would not even bother you. That would just
it
happen,
doesn't.
isn't it?
Yes, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't.
Very nice, very very nice. So let me ask you this. He talks about a very powerful concept called fit by design and not by default. I thought this was a very beautiful combination of words from a leadership perspective. Uh, what's your take on that, and how do you see that for young leaders? How should they interpret that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting thought, because the example that he gives is of a car and the fitting of the car door. So either you have to hammer it and fit it, or you design it so perfectly that it fits. So I think as young leaders, and also as leaders in the organization, whether you are in HR or any other function, I think the right talent is always a question sitting on everybody's head, right? I was just hiring. I told you, hiring for my team, and it's a humongous process to get the right person. And there are so many tests available. You name it and you get it in the market. However, not always do we get the equation right. And I think the fit by design for me, in this sense, is about getting the right kind of person with you in your team, and whether and that I am talking about the microcosm of the manager and his team, right? I'm not really talking about an organizational process, because of course you will put ABC steps down, and you will have filtering mechanisms, and you will choose your funnel and all that. I'm talking about that very essential personal thing between a manager and a team when he's hiring. And while we often call it cultural fit, I think um, it's more about that trust building between the manager and the leader and his team, right? Because we often, it's a very oft quoted thing that people leave leaders and they don't leave organizations. So, that's experience, that responsibilities rests on the shoulder of the managers per se, right? And I think that, by design is something, again, I said on motivation, that you can't hire people with the right set of skills, and then you hammer them into the culture of the organization. It doesn't. I mean, if you have to work with me, definitely it doesn't work that way, because in you can inspire, you can lead, you can visualize, but the person has to be sold into the thought that what he or she is doing is impactful, that is going to make some change, some impact, some meaningful impact in the scheme of things for the company. And that is across levels, across functions, completely agnostic of your role. I mean, it is, so that for me is the design piece, the way I see it, that you are sold into the vision of what you are supposed to do and how it fits into the mechanism and the machinery of the organization, I think.
Yeah, and the why becomes very clear once you're sold into it, isn't it?
Sorry, come again?
I'm saying once you're sold into it, the why becomes very clear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. It's not easy, but I think leaders should start somewhere working on that, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a very difficult. When I was thinking about your questions, I was thinking about whether we can upscale this to a organization perspective, and we started something around. So I've done quite a bit of work on making values a way of life in Sapphire, in my current organization, and we have something called, when we hire, we look at whether the person has the same or similar value system that we hold dear over here. But it's not easy to put that filter when you hire people. I mean, you can have questionnaires and you can have those structured BEI interview sheets, and it helps. I'm not saying those tools don't help, but I don't think I'm still at that place where I would want to be in that, in that selection process.
True. Very lovely. Very, very lovely. So, as we move on to the next one, okay, this is very interesting for me. Simon talks about something called winning hearts and minds. Now, this is very simple statement. All of us know it. But the very fact that he put hearts before mind, not mind before hearts, brings out a huge shift in thinking, as you said when we started.
Right.
As HR people and young leaders who are listening to Amrita, who would want to pave a way in the space of HR and grow like you, how should they interpret this statement when they go and pick up this book and read it? Winning hearts and minds. Give us a little input from an HR angle.
So, you understand that whenever we go for, I was doing a lot of campus interviews, and the first thing, why are you in HR? And the first question comes is, oh, I love to work with people, and that's become such a cliched response right now, because no matter where you work, mostly you have to work with people, unless you are in a very, very specialized scientific or some such field, right? You have to work with people. But in this context, I think winning hearts. So, um, I think what HR folks can keep in mind is about appealing to the emotional piece, and I will get to that point on it. I think it has a lot to do with the way you influence people, right? And as HR, and as you grow up the
Hmm.
ladder, I think influencing becomes one of the key success factors
Very much.
for your role, right? I think in almost all roles, but definitely I've experienced HR, so I can
Yeah.
tell
As you
you
move up,
about
it becomes
HR.
all the more the most important skill.
Yes. And so here, what Simon Sinek talks about is, when he talks about hearts, he's actually talking about the limbic part of our brain, which is the seat of feelings and emotions, and that is the decision-making center of our brain. However, it doesn't have the capacity for expression, so it doesn't have the capacity for language. And then you go to our Homo sapien brain, which kind of surrounds the limbic brain, and that is the part that has the capacity for language, is all
Right.
facts, logic, reason. And typically, when you go to a business leader,
Hmm.
like from my angle, they will ask for ROI, and they will ask for, okay, so because I am managing initiatives, right? So learning and everything sounds esoteric. So you have to kind of quantify it, turn it into data, facts, figures. And while doing that, and that is necessary, important to get the buy-in, but while doing that, I also kind of try to appeal, I think, to what's in it for them.
Hmm.
Articulating the what's in it for them is a very important piece. And whether you work with data, whether that is what it appeals, or you work with the impact or the change as a leader that he is going to bring to his people. So
Hmm.
it is not my initiative, it is your initiative that you are doing for your people. I am simply a medium. I'll put the systems and necessary processes in place, I'll get the levers in place,
Correct. Correct.
but the leader is still you. And if you do this, this is what we envision together. I think that is the communication that I try to do.
Hmm.
And that helps. I think that helps, because otherwise, especially for HR, a lot of work that they do is looked at, uh, it's HR's domain, or it's
Yeah.
uh, HR work, and somehow that is kind of far removed from the realities of a busy workplace. And that is the distinction that I have always tried to
Right.
blur. Uh, and I think this helps, if you can really show or bring forward what's in it for them. It
Hmm.
helps when you are uh, building your team as well, because
Right.
what you offer, are you offering money and perks and glitzy offices? Yes, all of that works when you are starting your first job, and it's all of it is important, but the what's in it for me has to be clearer and deeper than that.
Very
So
true. Very true. I think very right, because if you can't get that feeling through to the business leaders, plus also get the facts,
mm,
we are not going to get our argument through the table at all. I've been
so,
in this space, so I know how difficult it is sometimes. It can be frustrating. You just go back and forth, back and forth.
yes,
They don't understand our language. They feel that we don't understand their language, and then it's quite a
yeah.
situation. But I think if HR aspiring young leaders listening to you want to become successful HR, they need to have this ability to combine influence the hearts and the minds of reader. Then they will be this real business HRs, else they'll end up being calendar HRs of organization.
Absolutely, running the famous the Rangoli competitions.
I know, very, very true. I get that. Lovely, lovely. This is a very interesting one I'm going to ask you, right? Uh, Clarity of the why, discipline of the how, and he also says consistency of what. says is very, very important for somebody to be successful in career in life. I'll repeat: clarity of the why, discipline of the how, and consistency of what. Any
Right.
example you could give the young leaders to understand uh, how does this work?
So I think we spoke about it a little while earlier as well. That while Simon Sinek talks about start with the why, it does
Hmm.
circles in the golden circle that really makes it work. And you might, if you believe something, then you better act in the same belief. You better
True,
take actions that reinforce the same belief.
true.
So if as an organization you are saying we put employees first, then you
Hmm.
really have to put employees first, even when it is at the cost of something else. We
Right.
always like to do good things, good stuff when the going is easy. The moment it is tough, and the pandemic is probably one
Great
of
lessons.
the great lessons that all businesses have learned. And we have tried as an organization to be as empathetic as we could
Hmm.
have when we were very, very badly hit. QSR is a B2C
Right.
company, and we were very badly hit during that time. And yet we have tried to be as empathetic as possible. Um, and yet we have had to take tough decisions, right? Mm, but we have been, I think one of the good things that we did was we held monthly town halls with CEOs. And so when you say that care, we are at least being transparent, constantly
Yeah.
talking about, giving absolutely clear updates about where the business is headed, how much we can support, how much we can't, what are the
Hmm.
harsh decisions that we are taking, how soon and how quickly we will take back all the difficult decisions that we have taken to
Right.
make
Right.
lives easy for our people. And we have done that. We have kept
Hmm.
every promise that we have made during these times. I think it really tested the way we functioned. And I think I'm sure every company has a story of survival
Yes.
during this time. What what we ran a couple of surveys during that time, and as HR we keep connecting with people during that about how they are doing, and we had a lot of connect calls during
Hmm.
those
Hmm.
times. And everybody came back and said that that reassurance that I am taken care of, that
Hmm.
came in through the very, very honest communication of even the bad news,
Hmm.
is what really kept us going, and
Right.
is what really reinforced our faith in the leadership of the company, in the company. And for a company that is 5 6 years old, I think that's a very big achievement.
Very
So I think that's one example. Another example is, I think, from my personal journey, and I have had a few actually really traumatic experiences in my personal life,
true.
and pretty early on in my 20s, right? So,
Right.
um, and it could have absolutely destroyed the way my life functioned. And for some time, I was quite, paralyzed and in shock and all of that. But I think a very clear sense of who I am, and that is the whole point when all my self
Hmm.
exploration really began in earnest. Because
All right.
when you are in troubled waters is when you start seeking out help. And I sought out
Right.
help, and I underwent a lot of coaching and counseling, and a lot of reading around these lines. And
Mhm.
I think finding that sense of why is was very important to me. And then it was a question of uh, being consistent with it, that no matter what happens, I will not stop in
Correct.
the self exploration, and I will make time, and I will take that effort to go on in that journey. Because at certain points, and in everybody's life, once or twice this is going to happen at different stages, that you are in a
Right.
very critical junction. And for women it becomes even more critical, because they tend to some people tend to give up, because it
Yes.
is difficult. And I'm not saying it's not difficult, it is tremendously difficult at times. So
Mhm.
um, that sense of why is about not giving up. And you might I left my job for about 3 4 months. I didn't
Mm.
work. because I was so disoriented, and then coming back. But when I came back, it was like with a vengeance. I mean, I was just like totally committed in that, and that's where I think is what you're talking about is the consistency
Consistency.
of the how, because you have to be at it. I mean, you just have to be at it. There is no shortcut to becoming
Very true.
successful, and success again is it's defined differently by different people. So for me, if I have done something well, I'm tremendously happy, and that is good enough
Success for
for
you.
me, and the rest happens, so the rest just follows. So
Very true.
that's
I think very right, because that consistency and discipline becomes so important, isn't it? Because as you rightly said, I'm just thinking as I was listening to you, Amrita, that many people like you, including me, would have gone through difficult times, right? How many of us are able to stay consistent and come out of that? Uh, Clearly differentiates us from the others who couldn't. This is nothing but the grit and resilience that we keep talking about, right? And the book called Grit by Angela Duckworth, she very
yes,
clearly says this. That clearly differentiates people.
yes,
And I think one of I mean, I'm able to relate now when you said I can relate this with her book. I think being gritty and doing an evaluation every day on how gritty you are can help you to stay consistent with the how and the what, isn't it? I think for leaders,
yes,
it's very important, isn't it?
very, very important.
Very, very true. Yeah. I'm very glad that I'm talking to someone who went through the tough times and bounced back the way that you are. That is nothing but a resilient person. I think young leaders, a big call out to all of you guys that it's not easy. I'm sure you're going through tough times. You maybe have gone through tough times. Reading books, I can tell you with my experience and the guest of the day, helps you to reflect, helps you to find a door that you can open and come out far more successful, far more confident. So I think go pick up this book, read the book, pick up the book, Grit that I spoke about, read the book. We have two people today talking, and we have not invested time here just for the namesake. We are talking about books and the power of books. And classic example of the lady here is how they really help you to come out in tough times. I think it's a huge call out from both of us, and I'll join you, Amrita, in doing this. To tell young leaders to go back and start reading, it'll help you to come out as a very, very different person. And I'm so glad that you did that, Amrita. Congratulations on that. Many would have just succumbed to it. You would have had that moment of going down and slipping, so then
Yes,
it just came out, isn't it?
yes.
It's not easy. It's not easy at all. Very true. Very, very true. Beautiful. I'm going to ask you the last but one question of this lovely, lovely conversation. And I thought this was very powerful learning I had. And when I read this, I could relate to so many leaders in my life who have impacted me very positively, who have impacted me very negatively as well, and made me what I am, because it told me that I wouldn't be this when I become that. Right? That was very, very interesting learning for me. So he says, energy motivates, but charisma inspires. How do you interpret this, and how do you work towards being that charismatic leader every time? What do you
I
do?
think I think that's still a journey to be charismatic.
Whatever you are today, what do you do differently?
So I think energy, whatever I'm going to say, but I'm having said that, I am still a very high energy person. So most of the times I am running around, doing something. But energy is limited in in space and time. It is like a cloud burst, right? So
Right.
and it's amazing to be around people with high energy, especially when you are wanting to achieve something.
Yeah.
And that's nice, but then it is bound to dissipate. It is bound to go down, and it
Very true.
has its own crest and troughs, and it is going to happen, right? You cannot be high energy all the time. Uh, and charisma is more intrinsic. I think it speaks directly to people. It is about the undying commitment of the leader in the why and the how. Uh,
Uh,
I think that is what it is. It just hooks you. In psychology, we use the term hook in a rather negative manner, but I'm using here in a positive way, that it hooks you. It is how you get loyalty, and
hmm.
while loyalty nowadays is underrated, I think, and true, I kind of agree to that as well. I mean, you work with a company for as long as you are committed to its ideal, and you are committed to doing a good job of it. Mm, but I think that's where you get loyalty, is that I choose you as a leader, and I choose you as a company over something better.
Yeah.
It's not when there's nothing in the market, but over something better. And that's the that's the uh, that's the charisma of leaders. It is not only when they are in the room, but also when they are not there. That is the vision that he is or she has shown you, that can keep you going. And you need to, because people need to do, I mean, in today's world, it's not enough to do just what you are supposed to. You have to do over and above, and that over and above comes only from seeing something larger than your salary to really push you. So that is the, if energy is emanating from that charisma, it's infectious.
Very true. I think that's a nice one that you said. That if it emanates from charisma, it becomes very, very infectious, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not about exclusivity. It's about, can energy come out of charisma? I think that's very interesting perspective. Thanks for that. I've not thought it from that angle, Amrita, because it's make me think that energy is so momentary, but when it emanates from charisma, it stays and sustains for a longer time.
Yes.
And it probably goes beyond the boundaries of time and space. Very, very true. Very true. And that's one reason why we follow charismatic leaders and move on with them, right? They join some other organization. I want to
Yes.
go.
Yes.
It doesn't matter
They are
if
going
it's monkey.com or a monkey.com or a buffalo.com. I want to work with this gentleman or this.
Yes.
Very true. Very, very true. If only leaders get this early in life, I'm just imagining as a leadership coach, how beautiful workplaces can become, isn't it?
Yes.
Just a shift in the thinking that leaders need to have. They can just create magic.
There's self-realization, what you were talking about just a while back, that books can set you in a journey of self-exploration, and that self-introspection, self-realization is what makes you, is what brings that shift, because that shift is necessary. And there are multiple such shifts that are going to happen in the course of your leadership journey, and at various levels. And a lot of it is triggered by experiences that you have, and what you said, right, that the good ones and the not so good ones. In fact, the not so good ones teach you more than the good ones, probably.
Very much.
Right. So those shifts are what sets you apart from anybody else, really.
Very, very true. Lovely. That's such a lovely conversation. I can keep going on and on with Simon Sinek. Both of us love him and his work. But the format permits me to come to the last question. And I want to ask you, with all the shifts that you spoke about, I'm going to take this as a big learning in this conversation, that shift. And I call it as needle movement, and you call it shift. What would be two advices you would love to give to the young leaders, Amrita, who are wanting to become successful leaders, who are on their own journey like you are exploring, trying to become the better version of themselves, whether in their space or other space? What would be two advices?
The first advice definitely is that you figure out your why, and that and that is not easy. While having said that, I have tried so many times and I've had wrong answers, and it has taken me multiple conversations with coaches also to really figure out, apart from obvious the self-exploration piece, to figure out what the why is, what really, because at the end of the day, it's about not only going somewhere, it is about the journey, it is about what gives you peace and happiness at night when you go to bed. And
very true.
Right, so that is your why, and the why will not be different for you at work and in personal life. The why is going to remain the same. It is going to be manifested in different formats, in different.
Beautifully articulated. Very true.
Right. So knowing and understanding that why and own it. I mean, if it is, and you have to look beyond the glitz and glamour and see what really makes you happy, what makes you tick. And when I say makes you happy, doesn't mean a good meal and go to bed, because nothing in life comes easy. I think you and I have, gone through the
Yes.
grind and figured it out. But um, you have to understand what makes you tick, and that's the prime advice. The second advice, I think, is to um, attach yourself to leaders who are authentic. When I
Beautiful.
say attach, I think you um, follow leaders who are authentic, and because knowingly, unknowingly, a lot of we tend to copy the leadership styles of people we work with,
Hmm.
even the ones we don't like, because those are the ones that those styles come out as behaviors, and those behaviors seem to be the ones that work in that environment, and
Right.
knowingly unknowingly we tend to copy those or be very similar. And if the leaders are not authentic, then we would be copying behaviors that are not going to be productive once you move out of
True.
that space. So
True. True.
so be around leaders who are authentic, and keep that eye out on behaviors of what you are really imbibing from the leaders around you. That is important, because we tend to be very influential
We
during
do.
our initial years. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they're formative years for us.
yeah, they're formative.
Absolutely. Beautiful. So get the why very clear in your head, and two, attach yourself with authentic leaders. Two powerful lessons. Thank you so much, Amrita, for coming on this show and talking so beautifully with a lot of smile and energy on the powerful book. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you had a good time as well.
I did. Thank you so much, Rajiv.
It was a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you sometime soon. Till
Yep.
then, take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.